to this edition of Everything Home. Today we're going to teach you how to change a fuel filter on a 2008 Chevy truck with the Duramax diesel in it. Now, each truck is a little bit different, but I believe from 2007 to 2013, this is where the fuel filter is. Typically, the fuel filter might be in a different place, but the process is going to be the same. So let's go get started on this and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so first thing we need to do is show you where the fuel filter is on this 2008 Chevy with the Duramax diesel. You see the air intake system here, we're on the passenger side. And you look back in here and the fuel filter is right down below this. This is actually the primer pump to prime the fuel filter with fuel once you get done changing it. And this is the bleeder valve right back here that you're going to open up. Now, I've learned a long time ago when I'm working on cars that sometimes it's a lot easier to take a few pieces off to get easier access to the part that you're replacing. And in that case, we're going to take off this clamp here and loosen this clamp, and we're going to take out this piece of the air intake system. And then you're going to want to go down here to where the passenger side front tire is, and we're going to actually take off this panel right here. That's really simple. We're actually missing a couple of the pins that hold it in, so it's even less, and we're gonna have to take off. We have a mud flap on this one, so we're gonna have to unscrew the mud flap too. So what we're gonna want to do, I'll find one of these pins. Actually, we're missing all the pins on this one. So there's usually pins that go in here. They're little pop rivet pins, and basically take a screwdriver, pull them out a little bit, the center of the pin, and then you can pop the whole thing out. So let's get this taken out and then I'll show you access to the fuel filter up there. Okay, so we've taken off the air intake line, and you can see it gives us a lot more access to the fuel filter down here and to the bleeder valve. So let's go underneath too, and you'll see we took off the inside fender, and there's the filter right there. That's the fuel filter. These right here, just so you know, those are your glow plugs. 4 of those across this side, V8. So what we're going to want to do first is on the underside of this, you see this wire coming out of here. This is actually a sensor that goes up into the bottom of the filter that lets the vehicle know if there's excess water inside the fuel filter. And it'll give you a warning light on the dashboard. So we're going to disconnect this line first, and then we're going to take off the fuel filter. We've got this wire disconnected here, and now we're going to unspin the fuel filter. Now you can take this sensor off first and let the fuel filter drain out, but we're going to leave this on, and we're just going to be really careful when we pull this out not to spill it. Take it down, and we'll pour the contents of this into a container. So sometimes they shouldn't be on too super tight, because you only should go once it's snug, a quarter turn. So sometimes you can get them off by hand, but this one's a little tighter. So what we're going to use is just a regular oil filter wrench on this. We're going to slide this up and around it, tighten it up. There we go. So we've got that to loosen up a little bit. So now we're going to pull this off and just be real careful not to spill any of this. Once we get it down, we're going to take a container. Don't let your girlfriend or wife know that you're using one of her good measuring cups. And then we're going to dump the contents of that out and into there. The other thing we're going to want to check and make sure is that this still has its O-ring attached here, because if it's not here, then that means it's stuck up here, and you're going to want to get that off before you put the new fuel filter on, otherwise you're going to have leaks. So double check on that. And then there's also an O-ring on this, and we'll be replacing both of those with the new filter. So let's take this off. So what we're going to do, we've got our fuel that we took out of the filter here, and I like to pour it into a glass container, because then I can look in there and see if I've got any water that's been in the bottom, and there's actually no water in that. So we're going to loosen that with the channel lock, and we're going to pull this off the old filter, and then you're going to see this is basically a little float system, and because the water is heavier than the diesel fuel, if you get water in the bottom, this is going to float up, and if this floats up to a certain position to the top here, then it's going to notify the computer that you've got water in your fuel system. So there's the O-ring right here that we're going to be replacing, and we've got a new one that came in with the new filter, so we're going to get that off. And you want to be careful not to strip these threads, so you don't want to use a screwdriver or something to get it off. So now that that's off, we're going to open up the new filter, and inside here you're going to see the two new O-rings. You've got one for the top and one for the bottom. So let's take out the one for the bottom. What I like to do is, I've got this diesel fuel, it's a great lubricant. Get a little bit on it there so it's lubricated. Slide that thing back down on there, and then thread this back into here. And you want to make sure that you don't cross thread it. Should go in real easy. And once you get it snug, you want to go about another quarter turn or so to get it tight. You don't have to over tighten it. And you want to be careful with this too. You don't want to break this off. This is actually a drain valve. You can open this up. There's an O-ring in there, but since it's not leaking, I don't want to replace that O-ring and open it up. We'll leave it tight. This kit doesn't come with an O-ring for that. So then what we're going to do is take out the O-ring that goes on the top, and I'm going to do the same thing. Get a little diesel fuel on it to lubricate that up, and that goes right inside here. So it's all nice and lubricated. Let's go back to the truck and then get this installed in it. This is all clean up in here where the filter is going to attach. We've made sure that the O-ring's not stuck up there. We've got the new O-ring on the filter. It's all clean. All this is put back together. So we're going to slide this up here, and you want to really make sure that when you get it on there, you're not cross-threading it. So I like to go backwards a little bit till I feel it click and be in line, and then go forward. Tighten that on. So once you get to being snug, like that, snug, I'm going to grab our wrench and tighten that up about a quarter turn more. Alright, so we've got that on there. Let's get this wrench around this, and then we're going to tighten that about a quarter turn. You don't want to over tighten this. That should be good right about there. We've got that off, so then we're going to want to reconnect this. And remember, that's the sensor that will tell if you've got water in there. It'll put that float will come up. Alright, got that all connected. So now we'll go back up top. We're going to open up that bleeder valve, and then we're going to prime this fuel filter, get it filled with fuel, and then we'll start it back up. Once we get it started and everything's working good, then what we'll do is we'll put it back in the fender and put everything else back together. Alright, so I'm going to try to do this left-handed and hold the camera with my right hand so you can see good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to loosen up this bleeder valve here, basically. Take that off. That'll allow fuel. Once you see fuel coming out of that, after pushing on this pump, then you'll know that your filter is full. Now, even though it's got for a screwdriver, you can use a flathead screwdriver to open it up. I would suggest using a socket wrench. This is actually a 13mm socket. You don't want to strip that out. And a lot of them have actually a plastic one in there. So let's loosen this up. It shouldn't be that tight. And we're going to take that out. I'm not strong enough left-handed. Alright, once we've got that out, I like to set a little bit of like some paper towel here just to catch the excess. And we're going to start pumping this primer pump. It's going to take a while so we get fuel to come out of there. So we might speed this up. Alright, There we go. Now we're starting to see fuel come out of that. Do it one more time. Try to get rid of all the air bubbles. And we're going to put this back in. You want to make sure that when you put this in, you're not cross-threading it. Very important. You don't want to strip that out either. This is not easy to do one-handed. Switch our wrench around so we can tighten that, which should be that way. Jeez, I am not ambidextrous. There we go. So we're just going to give that little snug tight, not overly tighten it. All right, that's all good and in there. Let's take out this piece of paper towel. Soaked up some of that excess fuel. All right, let's go start it. Now let's try this out. Fire it up. If it doesn't start the first time, then you might have to go out and redo that process of priming that filter to get some fuel in it. There we go, firing right up. Okay, with it running and under pressure, we're gonna come back up to the top here and we're gonna look and double check, make sure that we don't have any leaks around here, make sure our primer pump isn't leaking either. Everything looks good from the top. Go down below, we're gonna look at the new filter. I don't see any leaks. So let's get the fender and everything put back together and then we're all done. Okay, we've got everything back together now, but remember, just because you changed your fuel filter doesn't mean that the computer resets. So basically you have to go into your truck, and every truck is a little bit different, but on this one basically we're going to turn the key on. I don't know if you can read that, but we're going to go to where it says change fuel filter, and then we had 2% of the fuel filter life remaining, so we're going to want to reset that. And by doing that on this, we're going to push in and hold the button until the fuel filter goes to 100%. I don't know if you can read that, 100% fuel filter. So once you've done that, everything is all reset and you're ready to roll.